Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video I'm going to show you how you can cut a unicorn shadow box and then add LED strip lights behind it to create a beautiful light up box like the one you can see on the screen now. So in the description below this video I've put a link to where you can get the Design Space project file for this shadow box. So if you go ahead and download that and open it up in Design Space, you'll get something which looks like this. You need to make sure you cut everything at the correct size. The easiest way to measure how big to make your design is to take out the spacer from the middle of your shadow box and then using a ruler measure from one edge of the outer side of the shadow box to the other. So mine is 8.5 inches and that's how big I'd need to make this in Design Space to cut it. Once you know the size, click on the design and then in the top boxes you can resize it to however big you want, and it is square, so whatever you choose the width to, the height will change as well. And now this is ready to cut out, so you can go to make it and cut it all out. Now this is in colours on the screen, but if you're going to be adding lights behind it, you want to make sure you cut everything out in white. Now I make a little bit of a mistake when I'm doing this because I'm recording the introduction after I've assembled it, which is normally how I do my videos. It just works out easier for me, but that means I can tell you now about the mistake I made. So when I cut this, I cut it quite big for a big frame, and the card I used was really thick. I had to cut it on the thick cardstock setting in Design Space, and even then I had to give it more pressure to get it to cut through, so it was really thick white card, and that was a mistake because it meant when I added the lights, as my card was so thick, the light really struggles to get behind it and it's not looking as bright when it's all lit up as it should do. So do not use super thick card to cut out with because it won't look as good. What I'd recommend using is maybe 160 GSM cardstock. That will look much better. You'll be able to see the lights through way better. It'll be brighter, more colourful, and altogether look better than what mine did because I used the wrong card. But anyway, let's jump into showing you how to assemble it, even though I am using the wrong card. So go ahead and cut it all out. And here is mine. I did get a little bit over eager and I assembled it already, but I'll show you how to assemble it as well, so don't worry about that. And then you have your frame, and if you measured it right, it should just slot right in. So I'll come back to that in a minute. First I will just show you how to assemble the layers. So I cut it again from a slightly smaller card, and I've just done the bottom 3 layers just to show you how it goes together. So you start with the solid square at the bottom, and then the next layer is the one with the clouds, so it's this one. And all I did was I turned it over and I got some foam pads and stuck 4 bits along each edge, so 1 in each corner and then 2 down each side, and I kept the pieces thin, so on my foam pads I cut them in half, so I just had a really thin bit, and that's because I don't want the foam pads to be seen when the light shines through. If you start putting foam pads all in the middle of the design, then when the lights come they will show little squares where you have them, which you don't want, so just keep to sticking it along the edge. So once you've cut it out and stuck everything together, get your frame back and then clean the inside of your frame because this will be incredibly difficult to take apart once the lights are added. So get the frame nice and clean now. I sprayed mine with just some glass cleaner and rubbed it with a microfiber cloth to get it all nice and clean. And then simply take your unicorn and slot it in. There we go. So next we have our lights to add. So here are my lights ready to go in, and they've got a peel off sticky thing so that I can stick it to the side of my shadow box. So I'm just going to get that started. Now I did try this the first time and I made a bit of a mistake because I just stuck this to the inside of the frame without thinking about the little tabs along the edge that you need to fold down over the backing. So when I put the back on my frame, it didn't fit and I couldn't pull the tabs down. So I had to remove all the lights and now I'm starting again. So what I think I'm going to have to do to get this to fit is just push down my card as I'm going so that I can stick the lights along the edge of the frame so that they're underneath the metal tabs of the frame so that I can still get the backing on. And it's still going to look good with all the layers and light up properly. It's just I need to do that to get the frame to work. Alright, so I'm going to start at this bottom corner and just push it down and stick so that the edge of all of those lights is underneath the tab. You can see here on the frame. So I'm going to have to leave a little bit coming out the bottom to connect the power supply. I may need to cut a hole in the back of the shadow box for that to fit in nicely. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm just going to check I've got that the right way round, which I have. And now I can just follow this round. I think it's going to be a little bit fiddly. But just keep pushing the card layers down, and that foam pads inside them will just squidge up nicely so that I can stick the lights below all of the tabs. And I will just turn it round when I've done the outline just to show you how that's looking. This is a little bit fiddly, so try not to get your lights knotted, and you want to make sure that the lights are facing into the middle at all times, so they're facing outwards along the edge. So that it's going to light up and do a nice even light. You don't want to face the lights directly onto the card because then you'll be able to see hot spots and circles of light shining through, which won't give you that nice overall glow, which is what we're aiming for. So I'm just going through and adding these to the outside. And now I've reached back to the beginning, so I'm just going to keep going a little bit with the sticky and just stick that to itself. And then, so if I tilt the box, you can see I've stuck the lights underneath the black tabs along the side. So now, because I want to have quite a nice glow, I'm going to keep putting the lights inside and just making sure that they face outwards. This may end up being a bit tricky because they're not very bendy and they seem to have a bit of a will of their own. You know what? I've just thought of a marvellous idea to help me do this. I'm going to use pegs. So I'm just going to go grab some and then I will be back. Okay, so here is my box of clothes pegs, and I am just going to use these to peg the sides together as I'm putting the lights on to help them stay in position. I think once I've added all of the lights in, it will naturally hold its shape, hopefully, but for now these pegs are going to be really helpful to stop it having a little mind of its own as I'm feeding in the lights. Oh, Well, that took me a really long time. When I've seen other YouTubers make this, they make it look really easy, but it took me a long time. It was quite fiddly, and the pegs were a lifesaver. So I've nearly come to the end, so I'm just going to take off a little bit of the sticky backing on this last bit. Oops, I've managed to pull the sticky off of the lights. That wasn't intended behaviour. Just pull that backing off. And stick it to itself, just in there, like that. Okay, so now I've got my lights roughly in place, but they are coming over the top in a few different places. So I'm going to need to push this down a bit and also be a little bit clever and careful when putting the back on my frame. So my back will go on like this, but I'm going to need to cut the corner off to allow for the mechanism to poke out. So if I move this to one side and get a craft knife, I'm hoping I can cut the bottom off of this backing. It would be a lot more sensible if I did it away from me rather than right next to my fingers. I'm just going through this a few times to cut it off, and then hopefully I can just break it. There we go. Alright, I'm not worried about this being neat. So there we are. So I've just cut that bottom corner off so that it will fit over the cable. And now I need to try and get this on without all of the lights coming out, which I think is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm just going to poke these lights in so that they're not coming up over the edge of the frame. So you can see in a few places just where I've put them together, they're coming up. So I need to try and stop that from happening as I put the back of the frame on. I think that's all tucked in. Let's try again. Carefully take those bottom pegs out, and then hopefully this will go in. And I'm going to need to push it down quite hard to make sure the tabs come in that I can then fold down. Oh. I really hope this works. It's been so much hassle. Alright, so this is where I find out I've put the lid on the wrong way. Let's just turn it over and see. No, we're going good. So here's my shadow box with all the layers. And let's plug these lights in and see how it's gonna look. Okay, so I'm actually recording this on my phone, so the audio might be a little bit bad, but it seems to be picking it up a little bit better than my proper camera, which is weird. But you can see how it's all fading, all the different colours. It looks really pretty. I've got a remote which it came with, so I could change how the colour looks. So let's see. I can make it jump between colours rather than fade, or I could set it to just one solid colour, like that. So you can see you've got loads of different possibilities when you do these types of designs, and it was very stressful making it, but I got there in the end. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's my thumb, you can't tell because it's dark. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more Cricut tutorials, and don't forget to get the Design Space project to make your own. Follow the link in the description of this video. Or to learn how to design your own, I've also put a link to my lovely layering course where you can learn how to do that. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.